Hey guys, and welcome to season 4 of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and in this season, we get to remember and reminisce back in time with some of our guests like...
Hey, we are Entity, and you're listening to
the Us People podcast
with Savia Rocks.
Hey, my name is Stephen Ridley, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with the lovely Savia Rocks, keeping it positive.
Hi, my name is James Green. I'm a TV presenter, sports reporter, and journalist.
Hi, this is Joy Langley, and I'm the author of Navigating Stress.
Hey, this is Travis Glossop. I am a creative radio producer for Kiss FM, and you're listening to the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks.
We highlight the strengths of our cultures, talking about diversity and inclusion, and speaking out loud and proud about who we are.
I was never that good. I was determined. I had a love for the sport, and that always fueled me.
But arriving into London and kind of growing up in a really difficult situation, trying to kind of make sense of my life with with at home and not being accepted by the people around me, because there was, in the 60s, there was tremendous racism growing up in London.
It's great. I'm glad, because I'll be honest, I didn't really work that hard at uni, so it was good to leave uni and really get on it, really because I also, as a person, I think I value productivity. A lot of people live to work. I think I am one of the work to live guys, but because my work is amazing, that's all right with me. So as a person, I go to bed happy when I've had a productive day.
We've also saved the best till last by honouring another artist and showcasing their talent as our new theme song, with none other than your host, Savia Rocks, featuring in their song. So guys, enjoy, stay creative, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Let's go.
Hello listeners, my name is Laura Belcher, and I'm on a mission to teach 10 million women how to believe, execute and monetize their authentic purpose. And you're listening to the Us People podcast with the beautiful Savia Rocks.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Yes People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I am humbled to have the beautiful Laura here with me. Laura is a business mentor and photographer. Laura, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Yes People podcast. How are you? I love it. She's smiling. I like it.
Oh, you've just got the most beautiful, infectious energy. Honestly, I'm so grateful to be in your space, and thank you for having me. I'm really bloody excited for this conversation.
So
we've been chatting already. We haven't even recorded yet.
So me and Laura have been talking for, I think, about the past 20 minutes. And it's been a beautiful conversation even before. So I thought, you know what? Let's start recording. So Laura, my first question for you is, could you tell me about yourself, but also where you were brought up and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
Of course I can. Thank you. Firstly, I was brought up in Kent, which is what they call the Garden of England in the UK. I was brought up in a very privileged environment in the way that I had safety, I was protected, I was loved fully. I grew up in a very kind of what you would paint in a picture, I guess, in an environment where I had a mum and a dad that were with me all the time, and a brother.
Yeah.
I haven't come from the most affluent background in terms of money. And now I say that with humility, in the fact that, like I just said to you, was always provided for, always loved, but the mindset around money wasn't the way I see it now and the way that I teach it and I believe in. But yeah, that's kind of that shift. Can I elaborate, or do you want any more?
No, I want you to elaborate. I want you to be you.
Okay, so I'm just thinking how I can help your listeners too all the time. So yeah, that's kind of basically we were there. I always wanted to perform. I always wanted, I always asked questions as a child. I believe in my spiritual beliefs that I truly believe that we are souls, and I believe that we move from different lifetimes. only something I've really connected to over the last year or two. I've never been religious in my life. I've been an atheist, but I always believed in something beyond us. I wasn't kind of closed-minded to that, but I didn't believe in the rules and regulations around religion. And it's funny because all of my workings and me getting to where I am now, I literally work to fight systemic oppression. And the irony of that is I believe that is, you know, the effects of religion, which is, I think, why instinctively I've never been that connected to it. However, I kind of got introduced to spirituality a couple of years ago. And what I love about it is that it's all about listening to you, your soul, your energy. It's not about anyone else as such, you know. And I think as well, I was connected to it the most when I started mentoring, because it was almost like I felt that paradox of this isn't what I do, it's who I am. And my soul's journey kind of come to life from it. And yeah, that's what I believe in. And I also believe everything I ever was and what I've gone through today is for that reason. And a part of that, well, a lot of that is everything I've moved through has kind of led with a lot of toxic masculinity. It's been based around a lot of privilege as a white woman, as skinny privilege, pretty privilege, all that malarkey. And basically, I started young, wanting to perform. I went to Trinity College of Music, very grateful to study there in musical theatre. I left there and I went over to Canada to live in 2012, and because I wanted to be rich, I wanted to be powerful, I always believed at a young age that, well, I used to question everything, and then I used to believe that we could be anything. Anything, you know, I really, really did. And I think I always crave freedom, I crave spontaneity. And I think that's why I love performing too. It was like to the collective, and it was that high vibration and, you know, that kind of energy and vibe. And then went to Canada and I'd done lots of different jobs while I was there, but I had an acting agent. Again, probably a lot of my privilege. Like, they love London there. They love, you know, the UK, that vibe, right? And I was, again, white woman. But what is interesting and what's funny is that I remember being in casting sometimes, and the agent would call me and just say, the casting director liked your performance better, but they like the other girl better on camera. Like, she just looked better. So I think as much as like I definitely cashed in on my privileges, understanding it, looking back, I also think it took me away from who I am, because it was almost like I got boxed as this person with all these privileges, but that's what my worth was to the world. Do you see what I mean? So it's like it's the opposite, I guess, of not having privilege and so on. So anyway, was there, worked for Warner Brothers, worked on a couple of shows, and I just found, Savia, the further I got up the ladder, the worse it got. The objectification, the misogyny, the sexualization, and just how corrupt the industry was. And then I went actually over to Vegas randomly to dance for a bit as a showgirl. Only very like a small stint over there. But yeah, again, you can imagine, I walked into these environments like, what was I thinking? This is what I mean. This is why I so know that I was meant to do all these things to teach it now, to understand it clearly and be so triggered by it. But yeah, I was fully sexualized, fully objectified, all these different things and so on. Anyway, came home because I was like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I actually like cashed out, because as well, I'll be really honest, I was propositioned by somebody in the industry for Warner Brothers, and it was horrific. It was really horrific. Like, it's almost a part of the Me movement now. When I look back, it wasn't a physical like abusing scenario, but it was not okay. The way that an older man spoke to me in a room basically propositioned me for a part, like in a show. And the shocking thing was, Savia, is there was people around me that were like, oh my God, he's picked you. Like, that's brilliant. You just got around doing things.
Under what circumstances has he picked you?
But he told me he would honestly, like, I wouldn't even want to repeat it for your listeners, but it was basically propositioning me for, like sexual. It wasn't even like, it was just coming from a place of white male power, or that, you know, we are moving through and we are evolving and things are getting better, but we are still silenced a lot of the time. So it's until we have these conversations, until we break down these problems, you know, it's just going to take more time. And anyway, obviously my dream, that inner child of having more power, all these things, I was like, well, this ain't working. Do you know what I mean? The further I got up, that, like, you know, I had always had this happiness and extrinsic connected to like things that I'd never done. So I was like, when I get famous, when I get more successful, I'll have more money, I'll be free, I'll be able to do things, I'll be all that. Anyway, shock horror, none of that work. Came back, worked in a gym for a bit. And I was like, I don't even know if I like this industry anymore. I don't even know if I want to be in it. I want that freedom. I want that power. And it's weird because it was never, it's weird. It was just, I just wanted freedom. And I think we connect power to freedom. Yeah. You know, with financial freedom, it's the same kind of vibe and energy. Yeah. And then, I met this girl and we should just have conversations all the time. Who's also very toxic, not toxic masculine, but she was very masculine, and she held every privilege like me, as a white, young, skinny girl. And then we basically one day was like, well, why don't we start a property company together? And we realised that there was like a lack of professional house shares in Kent. So it was very common in London at that point. This was like 2014 at this point. And we literally borrowed money, started a mentorship, and started a property company. And then we built that together part-time over 5 years. We ran over like 100 tenants. And it was weird, you know, Savia, like in hindsight, it was the ego win for me. And I teach this to my clients, it was the short win, right? Like I wasn't deeply fulfilled. Like there was a lot that was great. Like I was running on my own time as such, but then like I was in this toxic masculine place where you was working really hard, like at every hour, because that's how we've been socialized to believe you'd be successful in business. And then, you know, like there is a lot around business, a lot around life, especially as your own founder and so on, where, you know, you have to really, truly release the idea of control, because the real understanding of control is we'll never have it. And that's the feminine, isn't it? That's that surrender. It's the trust. It's the working in correlation with the universe, which I never really fully understood at the time. But I think looking back, I did it without realizing, you know, like that is normally the case, isn't it? But basically in 2018, I kind of lost. And at the same time, I was working a sales job. Because again, when I look back, I kind of think I was kind of holding on to that control, and it still was like a source of income. And because it worked for me, like as in I was freelance, like I didn't have to commit to timing for them. And because I helped their business a lot and I worked in sales in London for them, I could kind of come in and out of doing like ad lib work for them, and it worked for them. So I was doing that with the Live with Laura business. Because me and my business partner are still both Laura. And then the third thing that I don't know how I even found time for when I look back now, was I picked up a professional camera for the first time. And we share that in common, photography. And that came about because I think I was just lacking that creativity. I was lacking that feminine when I look back. I never understood it, because the business, was, can you imagine as well, stepping into that type of business, property in Kent, where we're still not evolved at all. Like there are definitely still there's too many, problems around systematic oppression in a lot of the areas. And, you know, and it's just so ironic because again, everything that has led me to this was putting me in every scenario where I could have seen it clearer and clearer and clearer. But we were fully in like a male dominant industry. Again, we probably got some of our contracts. Like I hate to say this because we were very good at what we did, but it's the reality of privilege. So that we probably got some of our contracts through the way we looked, through the way we spoke, through all of that stuff. But again, the flip side, the way we were spoken to by men on the daily, when I look back, Savia, this kills me, but again, it was kind of what the world presented to us, but we kind of we were a part of that without realizing. You know, all of my people that worked for us were all men except my cleaners that were women. you know, and actually our assistant that we employed in the end, but it's just, it is the game of like, where does everybody sit, you know, and how does that shape up? And I just used to feel myself going into this fully masculine role because I had to armor up every time. Like I was in these different things because it was like, it's what the world had taught me from a young age, that I realized that if you present as male, you are powerful. That the world doesn't allow you to have that feminine space. And so, Jesus, what a complex thing that is. Anyway, skip 2019. My business partner gets pregnant. I have a bit of a meltdown. My ego is shattered because I'm like, who am I without being a business owner? And it's so funny because my best friend, she said to me, but I'll be honest, mate, like sometimes you don't like going to your own business. And I'll be like, my ego didn't like that. I was like that. Well, you know, sometimes it works a bit like that, even when it's your own business, does like this, whatever. But it's funny. So we then go in, no, do you know what happened, Savia? So yeah, then we decide to sell the company, me and my business partner, right? So we packaged that. We then left to learn how to sell a business, and we did it. We got an interested buyer. This is like back end of 2019. That's a really long process because the process you go through like solicitors and just lots of different things. They want to audit you, they want to audit the business, they want to, like, at that point they wanted to see like every room we had in our portfolio too, because we were selling contracts on. It's basically how it worked. That was how we packaged the business and the brand that we had built. Anyway, we were to the final stages of the final draft of the solicitors agreement, and then COVID kicked in. Ooh. And he pulled out, right? So here we are. My business partner's got like a 10-week-old baby, and I'm dealing with our whole business locked in a house, and with them locked in houses. And, you know, it really like was really a struggle and really testing. You know, I saw different like mental struggles with my tenants, and, you know, we were still running a business, but it was so difficult. And basically, this is what's so beautiful and interesting, and this is the learnings of real. I truly believe in all of that, is that we sat in the back of a garden, you know, how many meters apart you had to be at that point, like a few months into the lockdown. And I just said to my business partner, I said, I can't do this again. I said, I know that I'll be abundant in my life. I know I can't do the whole selling process again, because if you go into selling, it's like almost like 6 months start to finish, really. And that's without really the handover of the company and stuff. And I just thought, I really truly knew at that point, like, my time was the most precious thing. And I just thought, am I not? I mean, I understand it clearer now, but when I look back, for the first time, I didn't sit in lack, because when we're in lack, that's when we're craving money, or that's where we make decisions that don't align to our being.
That's true.
Is because we are fear. We're in a fear, you know, based scenario. And at that point, I was just like, I know that I will be supported. I'll be abundant. Like something, I don't know what it is, but I just can't go through it again. And to be fair, what's so beautiful about us both is she felt the same, you know. And anyway, we had to figure out how that worked. We ceased trading, and we made sure everyone was okay, both ends, landlords, tenants, and so on. And luckily, we always used to run the company really well. So we still had a healthy balance sheet to come out. But I invested that money that I had in a business mentor. And that's how I started my journey.
See that journey? That's a beautiful journey in itself. You went from like racism to power to men to fear. No, I'm being serious. To so many different things. One thing I did want to ask you, actually, even before I go into my next question, was there's something that stuck out for me there in your whole story, and that was, I know we spoke about men quite a bit. Do you feel that men are afraid of women who have power? Because men were made from women naturally, right? So you would think that they would have compassion and kindness towards the women who have brought them up, which I'm sure many of them do. So when a man looks at a woman, I would have thought, just in my observation, that he would look at a woman and see that compassion, knowing that a woman could be his mother, his sister, or his own child. But in the industry, because of they want the power and they fear, I feel like, Laura, there is something that they are fearing in women, that they don't want us to have the power, because if we take the power, we will do things a lot differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted your observation on that, because we have both been in situations where obviously I've told Laura that I've been in the music industry, and Laura has just told you her story of where she has been, and both of us have been in that dominating area. Even with photography, for both of us, we have been in that dominating space where even if I take out my camera, and this is so bizarre for me to say, but there was a scenario where I went to an event and I was the only girl there. It doesn't matter about race for a second. Let's take race out of this. I was the only woman there for a second. Every man took out his camera, then looked at me and said, "Oh, so what are you carrying?" And I was like, "What? Are you serious?"
It's so true.
And it's so true. So a man will take out his camera and say, "I've got this camera, I've spent this much money, I've got this, and I've done this, and I've done this." And because of my temperament of who I am as a humble person and a humble being, I just pulled out my camera and started taking my pictures without having to say anything. And it's not about, for me, it's not about what you have materialistically. It's the energy that you put into doing your work and the result that you want to come out from it. And Laura, I know you know this because when I was reading about you, it was ambient all over you. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, that's such a beautiful, kind comment.
So I know that you resonate with this, and I know that I would love for you to have your say on how do you feel about men who have the power, but do you also feel like they fear women because we have the power, but they don't want to admit that?
It's interesting. I think everything you said there is an observation around a lot of those things. I think it's a very complex dynamic.
It is, it very is.
I feel like for a long, long time, we've been living in a world with a lot of toxic masculine. So in order for a lot of people to feel safe, they had to show up like a toxic masculine. And what we mean by that is, you know, like, for instance, it's like when we go into this, like, it can show in so many different forms, but a lot around, like, you know, when we don't truly be our authentic self.
Yeah.
You know, when we are in those spaces, it really like resonates so much. And I think just to break down a little bit of what you were talking about there and what you said, I think because of this, women have taken that on, because for women to be heard, to be seen, they had to become a masculine form of themselves. You know, like, even it's funny, I had a conversation the other day and somebody said about Margaret Thatcher, and I said, that wasn't the rise of feminism. No. Because all of her values were from toxic masculine. She fired every woman in her cabinet because so the reason why she actually got to where she got to was because she mirrored men. You know, so the thing is that it's a very complex thing, but to answer what you said around the fear of men to women, I think that's true. But the sadness of it is because men clearly feel like they are not enough from being just them. You know, like, it's not a coincidence that the biggest suicide, the biggest death within men under the age of 40 in the UK right now is suicide. It's because they don't know how to be feminine. Yeah. So here we are putting on the toxic feminine, and we don't know how to navigate our toxic masculine, and how to navigate our feminine back into life, back into work, back into balancing being the many evolving roles as a woman. But at the same time, this is the idea around feminism. Like, it's not about the woman winning over the man. It's about equality. But the idea of that, and the beautiful thing of it, is that if we had it truly, men would be more balanced. You know, men would feel like that they can be everything that they want to be. So because we have been systemically taught for so long, and really, like, you know, we're not that far out of it. Like, in the 70s in the UK, a woman still couldn't get a mortgage without a guarantor of a man.
Yeah, that's true.
In the early 80s, a woman could be refused out of a bar because she was not allowed to be in a public bar, public house, drink on her own at the bar without a male. So the thing is that as much as we are living day to day now, and this is the same thing with racism, like, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, Savia, but in this area, it's like, from what I understand from listening and talking to, you know, lots of different people, it's not about what we are doing so much day to day now. It's the internal bias in us. So for instance, you know, it's like a poison that was drunk when this was first, you know, created, this hierarchy of who wins, who's at the top, what skin color, wealth, what power, what do you look like. You know, when we started that and created that, it was like a poison. And then it was like that colonized us. And then I feel like with generations and with the higher awareness, it's diluting, but it's, you see, it's still kind of, it's through, like, you know, it's still there and it's still through. So what I mean by that is, and you guys will see it and feel it, is it's like, you know, a man might not be directly, you know, he might not sexualize a woman day to day in the street. He might not, like, you know, whistle her or whatever. I forgot that they call that cat call. Sorry, what is it down the street? Is that even what it is? I'm just made up a cat call. Come on, meow. I don't bloody know. But what it is it's when he's at the bar with his mates, right? And the 6 of them are all talking about, they're like talking on a group chat and they're showing pictures of a woman.
Yeah.
And they're sexualizing her in that way. Like, who in that space is man enough to say, guys, let's not talk about a woman in that way? Guess what happens? They get man points. They get kind of like, it's the same with whiteness, you know, and it started with, you know, the black person was so grateful to be in a white space if they were in like a more, a room full of opportunity, that they would code to whiteness.
Yes, that happens a lot.
Yeah, and I think women, we code to the masculine. But the thing is the sadness of it is where we've evolved so much, the masculine aren't really, the male isn't winning anymore. Like and also there's a lot of confusion because white privilege is invisible. So they can't get their heads around the fact that they do walk just day to day in everyday life, and they have privileges. Like if they want to go for a stroll at 11 p.m. at night, they never fear about someone following them or their lives being in danger. But women, we just do. Yeah. We just do. Like we like, it's just our being. But because it's so normalized in us, we don't talk about it. But again, because there never was spaces to talk about it, because we'd be gaslit.
That is
you know,
true.
like people of color and you know, and that is the thing. And it's like, and I think this is the complexity of it. So I don't think sometimes it's as much as fear in women. I think there is an internal bias where they probably fear their need. They fear that they won't be needed. They fear that they won't be the provider. They fear that they won't feel validated. They won't be seen. They won't feel security. You know, like the reason why that man straight away, all the men compared their camera to yours, was because that's how they share validation within their circle, within their beings. It's around power. So they feel that they are a better man because of it. And that's actually fucking sad, because actually that it is actually, when you break down a woman, that's not what they're looking for. And that's not what they want. And actually that's very toxic. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and actually, who's that for? Do you know what I mean? Like, who is it for? Like, no one cares really. You know, it is, as you say, it's all about in the work. And I think the problem is that a long time ago, where there wasn't the collaboration, there wasn't the unity of social media, and people weren't having spaces to talk their truth and talk their experiences without being gaslit, without being judged and all those things. Women were in a space then where they did shut up and put up. Women were in a space then where from this toxic masculine, we've created men that have fragile egos, and us as women were always designed to cater to the fragile ego.
Yes, I agree with that totally.
So the problem we got now is we're evolving out of it. We're standing up and talking about it. And then for the first time, in a beautiful sense, there is more movement. There is more space for men to talk about emotions, to talk about coming out of that toxic masculinity of always needing to feel validated or seen or enough by their being, by their body, by their money, by their wealth, you know? So I do think things are evolving. But yeah, I feel like when men kind of shut down the voices of women, I think it's a complex thing. I think sometimes they just don't get it. they just don't get it. They think that we're whining. I think it's a mixture also of, as you say, like holding that power. And I think that's where white people really deflect and they get things wrong. Because even when we go back to the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was like Black Lives Matter, and there was a lot of whiteness and there was a lot of confusion around, well, no, all lives matter. It was, again, privilege is so invisible that in that moment, they couldn't for a second grasp the fact that it is fucking more difficult to walk around the world as a Black person. It just is. Like, you have to Google shit. You have to Google a country before you go there. Like, will I be accepted, or will people look at me differently? Like, you know, and that is it. And then it's this line of oppression, isn't there? It's like, then we look at people who are trans, people who are like gay, people who are showing up in this world as their most authentic self, but's never been accepted or been the top of the systemic ladder, you know? So I feel like we are evolving. I feel like it's like the thread of poison. And I feel like as generations move, we are going to see change. And I feel like there's a lot in the fourth, fifth generation that there's just such an internal bias. If they're not listening, I don't think there will be much humility from them moving forward. But the millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, I think they're doing incredible things. I feel like their humility is incredible. I feel like the connection of social media allows us to really listen for the first time and be connected. And so I do think it's a mixture of things, but I also believe there is such light in the scenario too, and we are moving, we are evolving. And I think as well, the more that men that are listening and they have compassion and they're like, no, of course I want like equality for gender, like they are the men that will help us the most too.
That is very true.
You know, because it's like the feminist movement isn't for women, it's for anyone that just believes in equality. That's it.
I love that. You know what? That was the perfect answer and conversation between us two. That was
my pleasure.
I love that. I love that so much. So, and literally that was only our second question. So my next one.
No, there is no way we're getting free, mate. Crikey. It's like a running joke that I say to people. I'll do a long story short. They're like, it's never short. I'm like, no, it's never short.
No, I love it because you emphasize
in there. I hope there's a lot of like, I hope there's just stuff in there that brings people more clarity, you know, or inspiration to feel like they want to learn more, or they want to, or they see things a bit differently, or maybe have more compassion for others, you know. I just think it's so important.
I think the world was brought up, was made in a way, like you say, with the fifth generation, fourth generations, to divide people. And if you divide people into sections, then you can see which ones have the privilege and which ones have the equality and which ones can be themselves. And that's what they done. Once you divide a nation, the nation goes against the other nation, and that's what they want.
100% divide and conquer.
There you go, and that's how it works. So now, because the generations are changing and we are deciding, because it all starts from when you grow up. Your parents are your role models, and only if you have good role models, you will then be brought up in a certain way, and then you will evolve yourself to be a certain way. Now, if your upbringing weren't the best, you can still decide to be a great person. Just because your upbringing wasn't the best, it doesn't mean that you yourself won't be a great person. So I always say that to people. So always hold that true and close to your heart. So no matter what's going on in your life, there is a space for you where you can change and conquer yourself. So keep that
100%. And I think that's like, that is golden, what you just said, because, you know, none of us will know nobody will ever know what's best for you other than yourself.
Yeah.
And I really wish people just I wish I could like bottle it in a drink, but I wish people could trust themselves more from a younger age. You know, and I really hope that this, you know, phase of judgment and judging ourselves and judging what we're doing and having such fear of failure and all of those things, I really hope it dilutes more and more, because it's literally the recipe for misery.
That is true. That is absolutely true. But one thing I would like to ask you, Laura, is have you ever looked in the mirror yourself and said to yourself, and haven't recognized the person staring back at you? Was there ever a time when you looked in the mirror and you haven't recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to turn that around and become the positive person who you are today and believe in that person, especially when you were going through that rough time or bad time or that evolution time for yourself?
Oh, it's so beautiful. I can't remember, Xavier, like a pinnacle moment, but it's weird. I feel like human beings, we develop this duality. So we kind of develop how we walk through the world with the expectation of walking through it. And then what our heart wants, what the soul really wants. It's like the head and the heart, you know, and I just think it was like the back end of 2020 when I truly started listening to my heart. And when I started unpacking that and stepping into that, that was like a can of worms. And that was the first time where I actually realized that a lot of other people held my power.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
You know, yeah. And that's been a journey, you know, like healing definitely isn't linear, is it? I think we always kind of, I think this is another thing for listeners too. I truly believe this also is that we're all traumatized. And I feel like unless something really severe that we've been socialized as severe happens in your lifetime, you just kind of like invalidate it. But I feel like one really, really good thing that I could share to your listeners that got me closer to myself, to believe in myself. And again, it's always it's never a linear journey. So that moves every day, depending on what I'm doing too, is journaling.
Yeah.
What quiet you can get with yourself. You know, like really try and challenge yourself. I used to be that person where when something like was troubling me, something went wrong or something I couldn't make a decision on or I half had, I used to talk it through with all my best friends, talk it through with everyone, talk it through everyone I love. It was like a necessity. It was like a stress response. It was like I needed to do that. But the more quiet I get for myself, I just allow myself to be and I go, okay, I've got the ability now to talk to different versions of myself. Like, is it teenager Laura? Is it inner child Laura who just needs maybe like a chat today? Like, is she all right? Like, what's up? And we've got this now. We're a bit older. We've figured that out. And a big thing is journaling. Like, I really connect to that. And I think it will really help lots of people even if they're like on the stepping stone of maybe bringing in practices of like meditation or have tried it and thought, bloody hell, that's annoying. My mind just fucking makes me think about what time I'm going to have dinner or did I shut the curtains? Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. I have that sometimes too, but you just got to allow it. Just let them come in, let them go out, go, I welcome any thought, I welcome any thought. And it's almost like at some point you do get still. You do get still. It gets more quiet. It gets more still. And it's such a beautiful way to try to bring stillness and calmness into your life and start listening to you. Yeah. Start listening truly to what you want, what you desire. And when there are chaotic thoughts or when it doesn't make sense, write it out. I swear, as soon as you see it in front of you, it just, I really believe it gives the human clarity.
Yeah.
Because it can just make us see for the first time. It could, because in our mind, it could feel like 7 different things, lots of different things. And it's like, when it's on paper, we've almost separated it out of our mind.
Yes.
The ego constantly isn't reminding us, telling us, blah, 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 telling us, it's there. You know, and then also a great exercise I give my clients, and your listeners might resonate with this one too, is that once we also see where the trauma is, the trigger is, like it could be that you deflect, right? If somebody says you're not good at something.
Yes.
Or you could be triggered, right? And when we are like when you're silent with yourself, when you get quiet with yourself, you'll find the answers, you know, because when you're not judging yourself or when you're in your heart space, it could be that you're like, yeah, Laura, I know now. I know where that comes from. And it comes from, you know, when we were younger. And actually, I just believed that if I wasn't best, if I wasn't perfect, I wasn't accepted. So I kept striving for more and more and more. And I just remember that time when that teacher told me, like, if I wasn't perfect, I'd amount to nothing, and that my dyslexia wasn't serving, right? But do you know what? I'm going to release that. I'm going to release it to the universe, and I'm going to ask for support, and I'm going to serve myself with a new affirmation.
Yes.
And I'm going to say that being wrong is not a weakness, it's a chance to learn. And then I would say that to myself, Savia, every bloody day. And I'd say it and look in the mirror. And that's hard when you start with that.
Yeah.
It's hard, actually really hard. But honestly, the more that you can just keep connecting back to yourself, you will just have a happier life. You really will, regardless of anything else in it. I promise you. And I just believe that we're learning that, it's evolving. But sometimes we place happiness on extrinsic things.
That is
it
very
isn't
true.
anywhere. It is, I promise you guys, like, I've never found it anywhere. Making money, I've never, you think we're going to get there, you know, like going to another country, getting these next milestones in your life. You just can't, nothing is meant to give you happiness. I believe it's born in our present out of gratitude.
That's true. That is true. Within the silence of nothingness, that's what I call it. In that space.
100%. Beautiful. Sorry, we went off on a bit of a tangent there, but
I like it.
That was the only way I could answer it, like, authentically, because there was never been a moment, but there is a moments, you know. And I think the way that I've got back to myself more so than ever is to do everything I just kind of said.
I like it. I like it. One of the things, well, there are a few things. So I've written a list, okay? And these are some of the things that I would like us to talk about. So the first one is clarity, okay? And then the second one is community. The third one is connection. The fourth one is what you love, is creativity. And then there's courage, choice, and then there's contribution. So you have a choice of talking about anyone that you would like to talk about, okay? So out of I like that. Out of the list that I've just said, which ones do you feel resonate with you, and which ones do you feel that you would like to give clarity to in your version?
Wow, that was beautiful, and it feels very current, actually, because before we got on this call, I was telling Savia that I come into my mentoring journey as a business mentor, but I'm sure you guys can bloody tell by now I'm very passionate about women. Right, I am very passionate about women, and I'm very passionate about breaking this systemic oppression. I don't think I'm going to do it all in my lifetime, but I will keep working in my life.
Well, you got me now, so we're working on it.
Yeah, that's it. Building my tribe. Yeah. How beautiful. But one thing I've evolved as I've gone along, really, and I think this is another thing. Sometimes we think we have to have it all figured out before we start, but we don't. We just have to start. And on my mentoring journey and taking people through their journeys, and people sign up for me for different reasons, you know, like sometimes they're accelerating their business, sometimes it's confidence, sometimes it's lots of different things, all within their business or journey, like starting their purpose, right? So they kind of like come to me in a vulnerable space and say, I've always dreamed of doing this, or I'm trying to figure this out, and whatever else. And what's so funny is, with the full understanding of what I did for people last year, reading testimonials and really like centering again, getting closer and closer to myself every day, I realized that I give clarity to people. I don't think I'm here in this lifetime to say anything new. I don't think I'm here to, just build lots of businesses. I think I'm here to give clarity to people in kind of the stuff that needs the most work. You know, I work a lot in analogies when I work with my clients all the time, and I'm working on something at the minute that I'm so excited to release at some point. But it's so funny how my whole existence, I've just always kind of seen the most simplest way of explaining something. And I truly believe I give clarity to people to see things clearer for them, to have a better understanding of their messaging. Is it their purpose? And I do that with, I believe they're just my gifts. And it's taken me a long time to step into that and say that, but it's because it's a mixture, and a lot of it is intuition. You know, I really feel like I can see through people's armor a lot of the time. And you know, and I say that in a way of like, you know, it's funny. It's a bit like Brene Brown talking like, oh my God, I love that lady. But I think it's almost like it's the layering of what society's done to us.
Yeah.
So how we think we're meant to show up and be, and that comes so clearly in business. It's hilarious. Like the amount of people that think they need to show up in some kind of way, or again, goes back to systematic oppression that I'm so, you know, I'm so passionate about, but it's how people are expected to dress a certain way in a certain environment. Or what the fuck does that mean? Do you know what I mean? Just no, like you are not going to get the best out of people. It's like how business has been so far masculine. Like actually, it's ironic that the best businesses work from the most authentic visions with the best innovation, right? But for innovation and for creativity, people need to feel safe. So if people don't feel safe in a workplace and they feel like they are a part of a corporate systematic judgment circuit, they will never be innovative because that's feminine. They will never trust in their ability to create because that's feminine. They will go into masculine and they think, shit, if I say that, that might piss that boss off. He's got an ego. She's got an ego. Shit, if I say that, that's kind of not in line with the core values of the business. And I don't know what that will happen. If I say that, if I create that and it's wrong, that could be a detriment to the way I pay my rent or how I feed my children. You know, so it's really funny how sometimes I feel like we've just missed the simple stuff. You know, when humans are seen, heard, truly, and they believe that they are contributing to something that they are aligned with, you are aligned with, and it's something bigger than them, they will show up for you. They will show up for you. And that's, I think, how I help with clarity, because I feel like there's so much complexity around all the things we're trying to figure out, and we just need more clarity around it.
I like the way you put that down. And that's one of the best ones, because throughout our whole conversation, we've been talking about clarity. There you go. True. I like that. It's true. I like it. One of the ones that I didn't say, but I would love to talk about, that a lot of people don't actually always talk about, is forgiveness. That's such a powerful thing to have within you. The reason why I say that is because forgiveness can take away the bitterness of what you may become. And also forgiveness allows you to be the person that you want to become.
That's so beautiful, Savia. What you just said there, mate, that was like a mic drop moment. I hope your mic doesn't drop for your sake, for our sake. But that was like when you said, what did you say? Tell me again. When you said, when we master forgiveness, it stops the progression of possible bitterness.
Yeah.
Did you say?
Possible bitterness. So then that you can learn to be not bitter anymore, but learn how. Basically, it's teaching you how to have a beautiful energy within you that doesn't seek any judgment and doesn't give any judgment to people, because you've forgiven them.
That's the true definition of power, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when you actually can walk through life like that, having that ability to truly connect to your highest self for forgiveness in no matter what, that is a stage of enlightenment in spirituality. And the crazy part of that is that is true power, because in that moment, nothing will ever affect you.
Exactly.
Nothing.
Because you're still.
Nothing. Yeah. Even, you know, if somebody is so unfair to you in a workplace or treats you in a certain way or whatever, or fires you, like they will never hold their power. They will never hold power over you. You'll never feel in lack or fear or worry. But let's chat together then. Like, how could we support listeners, and how can we bring more kind of clarity, if you will, to forgiveness? Because it's hard, that one, isn't it? Like, I'm not going to lie, I've not conquered that one whatsoever. It is difficult at times.
I think I made a choice at a particular age.
God, you're so wise. How many lives have you lived? Like, you've done a lot of lives yourself.
Do you know what? I have always said to everyone, I've been here many times. I have been here many times.
I feel it.
And even when I was walking down the road today and I was coming home, And I'm always having to give way to people because, like we said before, people have that privilege of automatically thinking in their minds that I have to move out the way because of skin difference, or because I am a woman. Like, I was on a train, I got off the train, a man pushed himself and pushed past me. But because, again, I have the forgiveness of people, I always say this, you cannot predict how somebody else is going to be towards you, but you can predict how you can be towards somebody else. And that is so important. And I think that's the bottom line of what forgiveness is to me, always knowing how I can be towards someone else. And that's why at a young age I taught myself forgiveness, because I cannot, whatever is triggering in that person's mind, there are many things that we could talk about that a person reacts in a certain way towards you. It could be because of how they're feeling, could be because of what somebody's done, somebody has done to them. Sorry. It could be because of their childhood. It could be because they haven't got something that they always wanted, that they thought the happiness of materialism would give them. It could be a relationship. There's so many different factors of what a person could or should be going through at that particular time. But we as beings on this planet Earth, for as long as we're here for, need to understand that we can only control ourselves. So the best thing that you could have is peace within yourself and forgiveness. And that gives you a calmness and a stillness that people will look at you and think, how the hell has that person got that after the way I've just treated them? And it will actually make the other person think, I've pushed them out the way, I've been horrible to them, and they haven't rebelled, they haven't been horrible to me, like they've literally just brushed the energy off. And that's why I say to you, everything in life is energy. The forgiveness is energy, the peace is energy, the calmness is energy, the stillness is, all of this is energy. And it's just up to you as an individual and how you portray it to the world.
Can I ask you, Savia, because this is really beautiful and this is super inspiring. So when you feel that way, because that's incredible, wise thing to be able to configure at a young age. How do we intercept with forgiveness boundaries for loving ourselves?
Oh, that's a good one. So loving yourself, everything stems from childhood, like I said before. And that's why I asked the question about looking in the mirror. It's resonating with yourself. It's looking in the mirror and seeing the beauty in what you feel are your imperfections are your perfections, but you must see that first. Nobody else can see that first. You must teach yourself how to see your imperfections as perfections. Once you teach yourself to say, like, even affirmations, when you say them in the mirror every day, and it's the hardest thing to do when you're in a bad space. It's not easy. I'm not going to turn around and say to you, oh, I did it overnight. That's absolute rubbish. It takes time. It takes you to say, you know what? I am worthy. Worth, okay? Yeah. Worth is, what I will say to you, Laura, is worth. If you can learn what you are worth, and I'm not talking about money, forget all that. I'm not talking about materialistic things. If you can teach yourself how beautiful wealth is to you as an individual, you will teach yourself about forgiveness.
Right. Okay, I think I'm with you. I just, you know what? Because this is me being transparent with my heart open to yours. Like I think I struggle as I evolve with my self-love journey and my worthiness journey and my deserving journey. It's like, it's going, at what point can I forgive? I guess actually, maybe I do understand this. So I guess in a way, like in a scenario as such, so for our listeners that are with us, if somebody has done you wrong as such in our human existence and it's hurt us, right, and they're close to us, we still have to be around them.
Family hurt us the most, first of all, and then it's partners, and then it's anyone you love, and then it could be a friend who is close to you. So anybody who is in the inner circle of love, and I mean 150,000% love,
Yeah.
there will come a time.
We were the most open, aren't we? We were the most vulnerable in those spaces.
Yeah, because we have given trust, and trust plays a big part in it. So now that you've given that person that trust and they hurt you, don't judge a person in their current space of what they've done to you. Okay? Never judge a person in their current space of why they've hurt you. Yeah, because even though you are hurt, they are hurting more. And they may not show. They may not show that they're hurting because their ego may take over. And this is where the ego comes in. I taught myself not to have ego. And that took a lot of time too. So not having an ego and throwing it away, like putting it on the side and say, I don't need that. Yeah, because really, you don't really need the ego.
Interesting, Savia. I hear you, and I believe that the ego can really kind of really take us on this free will, crazy, off the scale journey at times. It takes us off our life path, takes us off our true happiness, abundance, and fulfillment.
It can protect you though as well. Your ego can protect you.
Absolutely. That's kind of the key factor of it, isn't it? But I definitely think ego, it's almost like I do believe there is some, I believe you need like a sprinkle of the ego, because I feel like it's like we can't feel joy without pain. We can't see light without darkness. And I feel like because we are in a human experience right now, I almost feel like there's a higher awareness of why we've got it. I think it's about controlling it though, as you say, and it's about understanding when it truly serves us and when it truly doesn't. But I think sometimes ego drives passion,
yes,
and then
that's
that
true.
can create inspired action.
That's
so
true.
I feel like I'm learning more about being kinder as well, I think, to my ego. So I think I really beat myself up for a while. I was like, well, there you go, ego again. Brilliant, well done. Well, that's going to be another lesson from the universe. We'll be learning about that in 6 weeks, will we? But then I just think it's like how we evolve. Like my mentor, she's an incredible, like, I love her dearly. She's a friend and a mentor, but she's a visionary, and she really is very open in her gifts to spirituality. And she says it to me a lot. She says, don't be so hard on yourself. Remember, like, we are in a human experience, and there is a reason why you have an ego, and it's just about controlling it to our advantage. To as you say, it's more around, like you say, like, it's such a beautiful thing when, like, you can understand that there is a law of oneness. It's the divine oneness. So our souls are all connected, and we are all energy, and we are all resonating beyond. So it's like digging deep when somebody is really in pain and they are living a life of pain, and they are, being so nasty, or they just don't understand the complexity of what you're saying, or they have no idea about who you are or what it is your wants and needs. And in that moment, we just, as an individual, in an argument, in a debate, whatever, we just don't feel seen or heard.
Yes.
That's all we ever want, isn't it? It's not so much, we don't need people to agree with us. We just want to be seen and heard. It's like, we have to learn how to navigate that too. And as you say, if somebody can't, it's having the humility to dig deep and go, wow, okay, cool. Like, it's okay. And actually, like, my work is done. Like, I'm going to protect my own self-worth, my own energy, without trying to go into fixer mode around this.
Exactly.
And send compassion that actually you're just not in the place I'm in. You're not in the journey I'm in. And I think this is really relevant to your listeners too, that I feel like we have to also understand sometimes where that can happen at different stages of our life. Like, we can outgrow people, we can outgrow environments, and it's just okay to, as you say, really try to, like, have compassion in what that is, and then to set new boundaries, or to step away.
I will always say,
it's quite powerful.
I will always say, forgive 110%. Always forgive 100. Don't hold back from forgiveness.
Yeah.
Don't hold
Honestly,
back.
You are so wise. You've done so many lifetimes, because that I do generally believe. I believe, even though I'm not a cure of it at all, I believe that if you can master that, I feel like you've almost mastered the soul's journey in a lifetime.
See, you say I'm wise, but you got some wise stuff there too, girl.
Thank you, darling. I actually think we're all very wise. I just think it's how we use it, and I think it's how we connect to it, and how we probably find clarity in it to bring it forward. But, like, you've done a lot of lifetimes. I don't know if that's just, again, a feeling. I don't know if that's that feminine energy. But yeah, it's such a pleasure to be in your space and your energy. But no, you're definitely right around that. Like I do believe it truly, it makes you a better human being. And yeah, I feel like it just brings so much, as you say, calmness and stillness and happiness, and whatever way you need to deal with it, you know, even if it's like trauma and you need time, take time. If you need to find different exercises, like breath work is incredible.
That's
like
true.
I know lots of friends and people that have really released deep trauma that they didn't know they had by breath work. I think is brilliant because it shuts the mind down. You cannot think anymore, and it really goes into heart energy. It almost like finishes. It's funny, actually, I read a book and I can't remember what it was, but it was talking about, and that's really bad on me. I'm going to have to figure that one out. But it spoke around the idea of the emotional cycles, and like how we emotionally have to finish a cycle in our being, but we also have to emotionally finish it in our bodies physically. Otherwise it will hold, it will resonate. And it's bloody true. And honestly, like one of my close friends, I won't name her because I haven't asked her permission, even though she shares it openly. But, you know, I like to respect people's energy and space. But yeah, she had IBS for a long, long time. And she had a lot of trauma, a lot of deaths actually from a young age. And she really had to do a lot as a young woman to protect and survive. And basically, when she got to like 29, she started to do breath work and stuff. And she just started to move through it. And all of a sudden, when she could kind of really release a lot of this trauma and really like be open in her heart and be accountable for it and look at herself and move through things, her IBS just went and it's never come back. I truly believe so much festers in our body.
Yeah, I agree with your
it's
friend.
almost like a stress response, isn't it? It's like your body constantly believes you're in this like fight or flight state, or you know, and I see it with other people. And coming back to, you know, what we were talking around, the forgiveness and those spaces, you know, I think you have to see when you're digging deep to try and find, if you want to find the way to forgive. I think it's also, if you can't be as wise as Savia and as calm, because I can't at times, she's very calm and wise, but like if you can't, it's almost like seeing how it benefits you. Do you know what I mean? And like that is one thing. Like if you can release that out, lovely, you might be able to like repair something in your body, or you might, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think it's as well. I feel like we've also been socialized to think forgiveness is like, I am okay with what you did. No, sorry. Like, I almost give you space to believe what you did was okay. And I think it's different. I think it's, I release you from my being of energy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And I feel compassion because of the way you had to be in this lifetime and try to harm another human. You must be in pain. So it's like when you see it like that, you're releasing it out because you want to protect you. And then it's like, it's not that you're making it okay for what they did to you. It's like you're sending them compassion for the way they've been. And then that's the boundary cut. Do you know what I mean? And that's the tie where you can cut that energy.
I think that's what you were asking for in the question. Where do you cut that tie? And I think you just gave yourself the answer, along with the answer that I gave you.
Find that together. How lovely is that?
See, so it's one of those natural things where you find that balance, but also the forgiveness also every day plays naturally a huge part in that. So we've both done it together. So I'm sure the listeners will ambiently take that on and be like, whoa, do you know what? I've learned that if I just forgive and release it from my body, mind and soul, because it has to come out from all three, it just can't come out from one space, because your mind is a powerful thing, you know, and your mind also blocks things so you don't have the trauma. When I was doing my research on the mind, your mind will block things out on purpose so you don't remember them, so you don't live with that trauma for all the rest of your life, but for some reason it remembers certain things in your mind. So right, let's go on to something that we both love, which is photography. Okay, so I would love to ask you what makes you do photography first of all. And I know we spoke a little bit about it, but What makes photography unique to you?
Oh, I love photography. You know what, Savia? I think, right, it's just capturing organic energy.
It is, yeah.
I think that's what I love the most about it. Like, it's weird, you know. Oh, I do apologize. It's weird and it's not weird because we understand how the universe always is putting us where we're meant to be. But what's funny is that when I was younger, when I was going through my performing, wanting to be famous stage, you know, all of that shebang, and the ego was fully leading. I used to model, and I modelled commercially. Sorry, excuse me. My dog's got a cough at the minute, and he gags. Oh, it's awful, but he's all right. It's another story. Aww. He's surviving. He's okay at the minute, but yeah. So sorry. Coming back to that, I modelled, and it kind of come out of a space from performing. And in hindsight, again, when I look back at performing, I used to love like the most organic environments. And I actually love devised theatre the most out of anything I studied, which was like, for anyone listening that's not so aware, devised theatre is almost like where something different can happen all the time.
Yeah.
There's no money in it. No one gives a shit. There's no funding. So that put me off after a while when the ego kicked in. But when I look back at my heart space, that was where it was. And I love creatives creating. I love humans in that feminine energy, to be fair.
Yeah.
Of just feeling like they can be and see, and it's very organic. And so the photography I love the most, when I used to model sometimes for this photographer's workshop, which is a bit ironic really. And yeah, really lovely guy that used to run it, and we used to have a really great session, and it was for a lot of amateur photographers, and I'd step in as a model. So obviously for the person I am, I learned a lot because I like to ask lots of questions, and I just learned a lot anyway. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, fractional light and aperture, and oh, this is interesting. So I used to listen a lot. And then when we were out on location, I think where I've just had this oneness and I can bring clarity with humans and see them and make them feel comfortable in spaces or kind of connect those things, I used to kind of do the opposite job of what a photographer should be. So much, I guess, a bit of a yin to the model. I was doing it to them. So I was like, look, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk down there, and as I walk up, I'm going to directly look at the light, and if you shoot down, you're going to get that frame. And then I used to almost direct them, and they were so grateful, and it was beautiful, and it's just because I could see the shot and I could get the shot. And I think, again, I always say this to my clients, like, when you're so close to your gifts, you can't fully see what your gifts are. And when you're so close to your flaws, you can't really fully see what your flaws are. It just takes time. But what's interesting is they're my gifts. So I was just fully in flow. Like, I just thought, well, doesn't everyone get that? Like how to frame and all these things. And again, that's quite subjective, as we all know. But I think coming back to your question, I always had this passion in capturing. It was almost like what I used to get in acting, this movement, this organic flow of a moment, I used to always want that to be captured in photography, in a still. Like, my worst connection to photography is when I feel it's fully staged. You know, like that drives me crazy. Like, I don't find loving that. I don't find inspiration in it. So my favourite, when I think back, my favourite shots and my favourite things to do, it is a mixture, because the art of photography comes from that space, but the art of loving women so much in the way that we really are still navigating so much stuff like we've gone over today. I feel like that's a lot of part of my contribution that I love doing. It's like, it's really breaking down the fact that we have been socialized as women, when we take race out of it, to be competing against one another, because we've been socialized to believe in the past that our worth was to be won by a man. So therefore, the reason why we judge one another is because you're my competition. So the more that I can be in spaces where I can control those environments, and also as well, like when I work for big brands, I fucking love going in and pulling them to shreds. And I'm like, no, that needs to be in there. No, that is bullshit. Like, no, like, and I say that from a place of love and light. Would you get, but, and like, not the ego whatsoever in that space. But yeah, it's just like, it's very important to me that everyone is safe. It's very important to me that everyone is seen. It's even important to me, like, I shot a beauty campaign. And even like, this girl was blind in the campaign, and she said to me about, I'd positioned and framed them, and she said, I struggle that side because I can't see out of it, because I'd asked her to move to the other side. Oh yeah. And she was like, that would be a struggle because I can't see it out. I went, I'm so grateful you told me. I'm so sorry. You come back to wherever you feel you, and I will make it work, because I know energy wins over my artistic want for things to be symmetrical or aligned or balanced, And then I'm very aware of, like, a black woman in my room. I'm very aware that they've lived an existence where they could come up to set and the hair stylist doesn't know how to manage their hair. Yeah. I'm very aware of that. So it's like all of those things I'm shit hot on. Like, well, I say that, and I really hope I get justice in those spaces. But that for me is how now photography's evolved. I like mentor on set. Like, it's really important, and I feel energy and I feel people. So if I can see that, like, someone's flagging, I'll stop everyone. I don't care what your call sheet says. Like, stop him, because my job is to capture the energy. Like, you won't remember when the images come up that actually the locations didn't work and we had to move, and actually we needed to push on and push time and make this girl work more so, and she's freezing cold and she needs a break. People won't remember that. They'll just look at shit images, or they'll look at images that they don't connect to, that don't hold like an authentic energy. And that's why I know it would serve probably best in that moment to maybe take a 20-minute break and then come back in, and just stuff like that. That, in a nutshell, again, never a short story, but that is why I adore photography. And that's always like my aim with it and my connection and want with it.
What's the best advice you've ever received from someone in your life, and how has it helped you in your life?
I don't know.
Wow, I actually made you go quiet for a second.
You did, Xavier. And you know why? Because I could bullshit you and be like, this one. And I say that with it would never be like bullshit as in lying. I would never lie. But I could have come up with, because I'm very grateful that I've been surrounded by so much greatness, so much love in my existence, and support. But I don't think I've ever had like a moment where I can think of something that someone said to me that's changed everything. Do you know what? There was one moment, right, which is very strange because it's not kind of connected to lots of stuff, but this is something that made me realize the importance of business and the way we see business. And that was when I was working for that sales company. We were on the road with Live with Laura, and it was really excelling. And I always remember this moment. And I was with one of the top sales directors for this brand, and the brand come over from Australia, and we launched it into the UK. And it was a multi-million-pound business, so it was pretty massive. I think it's more than that now. It's gone public. But we were together at an event, and he said to me, well, what's the vision? What what's the goal in this business, my Live with Laura business? And I said, we just want it to succeed. We just want happiness. And it stayed with me forever, because I teach everybody the opposite to what I did now, with the wisdom of that, in the sense that, coming back to analogies, right? So business, building a company, any of those things, everyone likes to build the house first. They want to decorate it. Then they want to build an extension. They want to do those things. But you need a good foundation.
Yep.
You need brand messaging. You need to know where you're going. You need to know why you're going there. You need to know what you want to achieve in it, why you show up. And the reason why that's so important, and this will help people just generally, I believe, in their life, because it really helps me. You can adapt it to anything. But then that's why, because when life gets shit, when money gets frightening, when opportunities go up and down, when another brand comes out that's in competition to you, you don't look anywhere else because you know where you're going and you know why you're going there. You don't get wobbled. And the best companies have it. They nail it. Like Nike is a great advocate for that. Like Apple is a great advocate for that. And there's so many lessons that are there. And I believe that's such a great ethos of life as well, because a good living brand or business is like a living soul, living like the most authentic version of them. So that's one piece of advice that's really stuck with me and helped me definitely bring clarity to my journey.
I love that. What do you feel well, actually, how can I say this? What do you feel best describes you? What are you most proud of that you stand for as an individual?
I'm most proud
that you stand for as an individual.
I'm most proud of standing in a space where my core value is for people to be seen and heard.
Oh, I like that. That's a brand in itself. Literally, that is a brand in itself. So I've only got 2 more for you, Laura. And my second, she's smiling. And my second to last one is, Laura, when was the last time you felt totally at peace with yourself? Because we spoke about peace, but I never ever asked you when you actually felt totally at peace with yourself.
There is a moment where I don't know if it was peace or it was like full alignment in abundance. But I had the honor in going to Rome last year.
Okay.
One of my clients was based in south of Rome, and I actually went to Rome for the first time, and I was so overwhelmed, Savia. And I was in such a vibration of just, you couldn't have given me anything more in that moment, where I felt like the richest person in the world, because everything I'd ever dreamed of, which felt like freedom, it felt like being immersed in culture, it felt like living for myself, loving myself, taking myself for a dinner, being proud to be myself, not having fear or judgment that I was alone, having enough money in my bank, energy to be able to be in that space, to then be working as I was there because I was mentoring my clients. It was like fucking abundance. It was like, and it always sticks with me, because I don't know if that is what peace is, but you couldn't have given me anything more in that moment. Like, it was incredible. Like it was just beautiful. Like, I was so grateful.
I think you had peace and stillness all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what I think you had. And I think you embraced it without even realizing that possibly was it in that time. So that's a beautiful sentiment to actually have. So my last question for you is, before I say my goodbyes to you, and that's going to be a long goodbye, but that's what I love about it. That's what I absolutely love about it. I would love for people to be able to find you, Laura, on all your social media platforms. Where can they find you? Where can they have a conversation with you? Where can they just connect with who you are as a person?
Oh, I'd love you to come and find me. So you can find me at laurabelcher.com, or you can find me on Instagram, where I'll be honest, I'm the most kind of active as such. That is Laura_Belcher_, and the same handle for TikTok, which has been a new adventure, but it's a really fun vibe. Like, there's just a lot of like, it's almost like at the minute I'm just playing and having fun there. But it's just fun. Like, I really enjoy that, you know. I feel like TikTok's a really good space for people to feel freely and kind of more authentically. I feel there's a lot of the reason why Instagram has got stale is because we just believe we create all this armor. You've got to show up in a certain way, or
look a certain, stand in a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. All aesthetics, wasn't it? That's kind of how it was created. And there was the algorithm did favor that. But TikTok kind of, I think, where a lot of people went on it thinking just a load of kids on it, I don't care and I'll be my stupid, silly self. We actually all love that, because that's all we actually all want to be. It's just ourselves. Yeah. So, that's a fun space too. But yeah, absolutely. Like anybody listening who resonates, like come and talk to me, come and have a chat, come and follow what I do. Yeah, it's always my pleasure.
Laura, this is where I say, do you know what? I can actually say this wholeheartedly. I've had a lot of conversations, but for some reason this felt like one of the most easiest conversations I have ever had with someone who has come on the show and has just shown up and has just been themselves, has enjoyed the conversation, has been ambient, has given me their positivity, has also given me their pureness. And I know you guys can't see Laura, but I can. So Laura was relaxed at first, naturally, as always, but she got even more relaxed and then even more relaxed and then even more relaxed. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it, to a point now where I'm looking at Laura and I can just see this natural chilled out vibe that she has, where she feels like she's just in her space where she wants to be. And Laura, this is where I say to you, thank you so much for showing up and being present, but also you know, hitting issues that so many people of maybe, like you say, have privilege, shy away from, but just educating them so that they can understand what everyone goes through, because we're all not alone. We all go through stuff in life and we're all here to help each other and teach each other. So thank you for coming on the Us People podcast and embracing who you are and literally just being yourself.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing your beautiful energy with me.
No, you're more than welcome. I'm so happy to have shared that with you. It's been a great experience, guys. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast, and please remember you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and you can also donate to the Us People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just tapping in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
Peace of mind, peace of mind. I need a solution. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with her. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with confusion. Yeah, I'm done. I need a solution. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
People say that having a peace of mind is trying to find a consistency of calmness within ourselves, to crave for a clarity that drives us through our emotional journey of life, to never let a person's judgment manifest into a fear inside of us, learning to believe in our ability to shine through the darkest moments and tunnels when we cannot see the light. Patience being our light for forgiveness and strength, to believe in our destiny. If you want real peace of mind, one needs to stop fighting their inner thoughts and embrace them with love, because love is the most amazing and beautiful strength that we have to conquer our peace of mind. Make your thoughts impact a nation by keeping them true and honest, especially to yourself, but make your peace of mind protect you when you don't have strength to embrace anything else. Find your peace of mind by listening to your heart.
Peace of mind, gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind.
Oh, it was beautiful. Just a pleasure. Pleasure to have a lovely, authentic conversation.
Peace of mind, peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. I protect my energy and peace of mind. Gotta keep my energy and peace of mind. Peace of mind, peace of mind. of mind,